Hey traders, what's next for the stock market? Let's have a quick stock market update. Let's go straight into it. Do not place a trade based on what you're seeing in this video. Trading is risky and it can cause substantial financial loss. There is no guarantees of making money in the markets, and trading is the most hardest thing you'll ever do, and it takes a long time to become a good trader. So this video is just educational only. If you're struggling with your trading right now, then click on the very first link in the description. We get learn a free training, the 7 universal laws to become a master trader that will boost your success, consistency, and confidence without spending a decade trying to figure it out. Click on the very first link in the description right now. All right, traders. So let me show you what I see here on all the indices right now. One thing I want to share with you is what I'm seeing right now on, once again, like every single part of the indices right now, and what's really going on through there. Now, one thing that I want you guys to also look at as well is if I just... The one thing that's really important to read what's happening, like if you're a short, if you got a short-term view, okay, I did a video last week based on the long-term view, you know, based on the long-term view. But if you're looking on the short-term view, the daily chart, okay, and you keep reading the short-term view daily chart, then what's important to do is, again, just to keep reading it, is to, let me go back to the Dow Jones, is to keep reading what the market is telling you, okay? Now, right now, if we're looking at what the market is telling us right now, and again, this is what's important when you are reading the market, when you're reading the charts, and when you're trying to understand what's happening right now in the markets, it's important to take what you think out of the markets. It's important to remove all that away from the market, and then bring back into just simple analysis to understand what's really going on in the market right now. So we won't even look at volume that much, because volume has actually been increasing on the Dow Jones as the Dow Jones is going down. By the way, I believe the Dow Jones is the leader, and because the Dow Jones is weaker right now compared to, say, the this is the S&P, it's the S&P 500, and the Dow Jones is actually a lot weaker, that's telling me something is about to hit the market on the downside. So I would not be too surprised to see something, you know, something unravel this week or in the next few weeks and see this thing just tumble on down. Anyway, if we're trying to see what's happening right now in the markets and we're trying to gauge what's going on with the market right now, the most important thing to do, that I like to do, and let me see if I can do this. Let me see if I can do this here on a much more simpler chart here. All right, you know what? I'll just keep this chart up here. One thing that's important to do is just to keep looking at what are the peaks and what are the troughs saying in the markets right now. All right, so I like to identify, obviously I like to bring up, say, 3 months worth of data and get a good picture of what's happening right now on the short-term basis. All right, so now what we're going to do is there's some trend lines here. Let me just delete everything off the screen here. I'm going to start from scratch. What I like to do is, obviously, because the Dow Jones to me is the biggest one, I like to gauge what's happening through here. All right, so firstly what I'm going to do is I'm going to start identifying the peaks and troughs. So that was a peak. Market ran down. That was a trough. That was a peak. That was a trough. All right. That was a peak. And now this is where the Dow Jones is right now. This still could be a down bar tomorrow, you know what I mean? Or tonight when the market opens up. Makes sense? So when we're looking at the markets, let me see if I can change this over here. I'm going to change my microphone. You guys can't see what I'm talking about here, but just so you guys can hear me a bit better. There we go. All right. So what's important now to understand with what the charts are telling me is now you've identified the peaks and troughs. All right, that's the most important part, is to identify those things. The reason why is because you want to gauge on what's really going on with the market. All right, what's really going on now? What is going on right now? If you have a look at what this chart is telling you and what's really happening, is you can see that the market ran up. Let me bring this up through here. All right, so the market ran up, made a high, came down, made a low. Now, what was that low through here? That was now known as what? It's now known as support, all right? So let's actually just draw a little box through there. Support. Now, if we have a look at, and again, what we're doing right now, guys, is we're analyzing what is happening right now in the market, all right? In the market. It doesn't matter what happened back here 2 months ago. What's happening right now in the last month, and what is the chart telling us? Not what we hope it to tell us, but what is the chart telling us based on what the market is doing? So if we have a look at this low through here, that was also what? Going back through here in the past, this was also resistance here, wasn't it? You can see the market ran up, had a lot of resistance through there, came up, found support on this candle here, came down, made this trough, ran up. So now we can expect, if the market extends out through here, now we can expect this support resistance to be actually a resistance level. What also do we see on this chart that's telling a story? Firstly, we've now made a higher high and a lower low. What is that telling us? It's telling us no one's really in control, is it? No one is really in control. Now, by looking at this chart, it tells me that sellers are more dominant. Sellers are more dominant than the buyers. How can that be, John? Well, if you look at this buying leg through here, and the selling leg and the buying leg, notice how this last selling leg was so much stronger. And this selling leg could, might not be over. We may get another down day tonight straight away. So this could be a down leg in the market, and this could be and another down bar through here. What I do think that's going to happen, or if there's two scenarios going to happen. Obviously, we continue down. If we don't continue down, then if we do continue up, we're likely to run into a little area of resistance, maybe even run up through here, little area of resistance, create a lower high, and this thing is then going to send us down through there. So I do believe either way, this is showing a lot of weakness here, because as you can see, this point through here, this here is what? What is this thing here? This is a false breakout now. False breakout to the high side, break back down. Now we're finding a low, and now we're breaking back past this support level here. That's actually pretty weak sign. So I do believe we're likely to start seeing this sort of action happening in the markets if we don't start to continue down, tonight in the markets. So let me just share something with you here that I am noticing around that. So you see that one through there, okay? That's the Dow Jones through this. So that's what I'm seeing on the Dow Jones, but pretty much similar same thing on the S&P 500. But look what's happening, right? We're still getting what? We're still getting lower lows and lower highs on the bars all the way down. So the trend still really hasn't changed. We're getting more downside once again, and we're getting this little trough run up, back down. So I believe this is a bit of a turning point in the market right now. I believe we could be starting to see, a bit of a downside action happening in the market, and it'll be really interesting to see what's going on there. But the Nasdaq is actually showing a lot more strength than anything else. And if you notice with the Nasdaq, what did the Nasdaq do? The Nasdaq actually found support at its previous resistance level, found support and ran back up. And you can see how it actually, this was here, the low through here, but it just completely sort of pierced through that. I'm not really worried about that at all. Or I'm not really worried about what the Nasdaq is doing, because I think the Nasdaq is not as relevant as what the Dow Jones and the S&P do. The Dow Jones, especially for me, is the leader. Analyze the Dow Jones more, because that's telling you what's really going on behind the scenes. And as you can see, right, the Dow Jones and the S&P look completely different, right? So the S&P is looking a bit stronger, but the Dow Jones is not. Why is that? Why is that? If Dow Jones has the top 30 stocks in America and it's actually showing a lot more weakness on the chart than the S&P 500, what is that? That's telling us that something is not right. It's breaking. It's actually a lot weaker than, because generally what happens, right? The S&P and the Dow Jones follow along in suit with each other very, very closely. So if the Dow Jones is starting to break away and tell us just a slightly different story than the S&P, slightly bullish or slightly bearish, that's saying something is just not right behind the scenes. And yeah, so to me right now, the Dow Jones is where it's at right now, and I do see we're likely to continue down from here, and we're likely to start seeing some significant selling in the markets.